Hey everybody, this is Tina with Rehatch Designs, and I'm here with a video on how to use your book pages and scrapbook paper that you don't like, and basically just how to use your stash. I have been doing this for about an hour, maybe 2 hours tonight actually, and I really wasn't going to do a video on it, but then I got to thinking, well, maybe some of the newer people might want to watch this, or I like to watch people collage and do things like that. It's relaxing for me, and it might be for other people, but it's more of a craft with me than a kind of tutorial. But what I'm going to do tonight is just basically I've got stacks and stacks. If you do any kind of junk journaling, you end up with all kinds of stacks of, oh, here my little glue thing got stuck in there. You end up with stacks and stacks and stacks of paper, book pages, because you're basically gutting books. Let me move that over a little bit since it's so much over there. And we've also got that ugly, scrapbook paper that we don't know why we bought it. Okay, and I figured, I needed some bases for, I'm doing a couple of new journals, and I didn't have anything other than just plain manila tags and whatever other papers that come in a kit or whatever, but I kind of wanted something to make tags and different ephemera with. And so I actually just went through my scrapbook paper, and I actually have a lot of ugly scrapbook paper, so it wasn't hard to find any. But anyway, I got a few pieces, and I thought I'm going to get it out, and I'm going to do a few things that will kind of, so I can have stuff on hand when I'm making tags and ephemera and things like that. And if you're new, you're going to need those things too. So, and if you don't have ugly scrapbook paper, somebody will probably give you some, because I'm telling you, I don't know what it was that, kind of possessed us all to go get this ugly scrapbook paper. Anyway, this paper I'm using is kind of shiny, and I wasn't sure if what I was doing would work. See, I've got stuff all over my hands. I always do, right? So anyway, it did work. So I think I'm going to just kind of bring you all along for the ride. It's nothing new or exciting. We're just going to kind of collage on this a little bit, and then we're going to just do some different techniques, okay? The first one that I'm going to do is just a very general, I want to cover my page, and I want to do it quickly, and I just want to kind of have something to start with, so that if I do a tag or something, you can use just plain book page, but this stuff's pretty thick. Not super thick. I probably want my tag maybe a little thicker than this, but that's kind of the point. Once you do this, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be just the right thing. I like my tags to have substance. Now, some people may not care, but that's what I like. Even the ones that I have in kits and things like that, I always back them with something to make them a little bit sturdier. But anyway, if you find some sturdy scrapbook paper that you hate, which I know that you guys probably have some, just let's be honest, and this is great for that. Okay, this is what we're going to do. I am going to be using Yes glue, and we're going to be collaging on there. And I bought this, and I know some of y'all that have been with me know, I bought this thinking it would take the place of my glue stick. And I love these glue sticks. This is the Scotch Permanent. As you can tell, this one's well loved. And the thing about it is, though, it's paste. You don't have a lot of control with this. It's great for this purpose, but I don't really see it as taking the place of my glue sticks, you know, but I like it for this, okay? You could use Mod Podge for something like that, for this. Now on this one, this is shiny, okay? And I just took a little sanding block and kind of went over it a little bit. And I don't know if it really made that much difference at all. But I just kind of did that. If yours is not shiny like this, then you won't need to do that. But I just kind of went over it. Not a lot, just enough to maybe take some of the shine off, just so that the glue would work well. So I just kind of did that, and I didn't do it a lot, and then I just kind of took my wipe and wiped it off, just to kind of wipe off this too while I'm at it, maybe my hands. And anyway, I just did that. I don't know that it made that much difference, but anyway, I did do that. So I've got my piece ready to go. Then I went through all my papers, and the way I do this is I usually just put a pile, you know, here, matter of fact, I don't want that book there. I'll just take those pieces off and put them there. And I like different fonts, different colors, different things like that. On this one, I am going to try and keep it fairly neutral. Because when I do my collages, I usually do kind of smaller pieces, and then I go back in and I put gesso over it and ink it. Well, on this one, I'm not going to put the gesso on it. I'm just going to do a little bit of work afterwards, but I'm not going to camouflage it that much. So on this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and keep it fairly neutral and pretty big pieces. So we're going to do that first. And I'm running out of my paste here, but anyway, oh, my jar is stuck. I think we'll have enough to finish. I cannot get it off of there. Whew. Okay, got it. And what I do with this is let me get this out, an old credit card, anything, you know, that you can use with this. Now, I don't scoop it out with that. I usually use my handy dandy little makeup applicator, or no, actually it's not makeup, it's for masks. You can use that, or you can use like a little spatula, but anything to get it out on there. And then I take that, and this stuff is fairly thick, so if you use that, now you can use Mod Podge and it'll work too. I find that it doesn't stick down as easily. I would usually, instead of using Mod Podge and then putting stuff to it, I would just glue stuff down with my glue stick, and then I would put the Mod Podge over it. So that's what I used to do until I got the Yes Glue, and now I just use the Yes Glue, and I'll show you why. Anyway, if you can see, it's kind of thick and gloppy, if that's a word, gloppy. I don't know, I wonder if gloppy is a word. And so I'm going to glop it on there, and I'm only going to do about half of it because I don't want it to dry. And I don't water it down or anything because I want it thick. I want it gloppy and thick so that I can just throw stuff on there and it will stick. I make sure I get the corners good. I go like that. And I'm only doing half. I'm going to turn it over so I can reach it better and put my top on so it doesn't get gloppier. And I am going to take pages, and I just have all kinds of different fonts, all kinds of different pages, and I'm going to just take it, and I don't really like a lot of straight edges, but I use the straight edges on the bottom because I'm going to be cutting those off. So what I do is I cut it and I leave this bottom, and then I'll go like right here, and so there we go. Just go like that. And this is where you can take your card if you want. I usually do that. Oops, my whole mat moved. Hold on. I usually do that later. I usually wait till I'm further down. I got more things on there. Okay, let's see here. I've got, and all I'm really trying to do is mix different kind of colors and fonts. Now on this, honestly, I am trying to keep the colors the colors of the papers not that different. I'm trying to keep them. I want this to be kind of neutral. I don't want it to have a lot of variance. And that's just my preference, what I want to do on this. So, and don't worry if you don't have it on all of it and it overlaps a little, because we'll come back and fix that. The big thing you want to do at first, and I'm using big pieces, okay? And there's this one I'm going to do completely different than my other one, and you'll see why in a minute. And I'm just trying to get as many different fonts and papers that I can. Now see, now that I have these flat ones down there, that I'm gonna, these straight ones, I'm gonna take these and I'm just gonna kind of put them in here, because I really don't want straight edges. I mean, you can have it, there's no law against it, but I'm trying not to, because I want it to look more organic. And I have some, I don't want them all right side up. I want them upside down. And I'm going through and I'm trying to pick out as many different ones as I can, which is not that easy, but let me see. I know. Let's see here. I've got some dictionary, but it's rather old. I really don't want it that dark. Let me see what other ones I have in here. Oh, here's a good one. See, this is it's darker, got a bigger font, but it's not too dark. I don't want a huge contrast. That's all I'm trying to accomplish here. So, and I'm putting bigger pieces over here. And let me move that over here a little bit so I can get that bottom part. And then I'll probably take, nope, I think that's the same one. I'm just really digging through here trying to find things that are, you know, different, so we're not using the same fonts next to each other. You can, it's not the end of the world. Okay, so we're at the end of our glue. I'm not going to worry about that yet. So I'm going to slap some more glue down and put some of that down here. And you know, it doesn't dry as fast as glue stick, but you don't want to put too much, because if you do, then it'll start drying on you and it won't stick as well. I'll take that, go like that. I'll do that. I'm going to come back later and make sure everything's down, but okay, so let's just put this here. And I'm telling you guys, it's really foolproof, because you can't really screw this up. You really can't. I really have not done a collage yet that I haven't been able to use. I mean, that's just, I haven't, it just hasn't happened, because no matter what you do, you can always figure out a way to use it, because it ends up always looking good. And this way you're using all these book pages that you have ripped out of things, you know, and of course you can use music page and all that. I'm purposely not in this one, and that's because mine are very very kind of old, and I want to I'm trying to keep this particular little deal here a little bit neutral. So let me see if I can get another page that can fit in the middle. And all I'm doing really, guys, is I am just looking for pages that look different than what I have here already. Okay, and I'm not putting a lot of thought into it other than that. That's all I'm doing, and I'm just tearing pieces that will fit in there. So I'm just trying to cover, and you don't have to worry about covering every little thing up, because we'll still come back and fix all that. We're going to, here, we got a piece we can put in here. Get the straight edge off the bottom. So as you can see, I'm just And they vary in color a little bit, but they don't a lot. Okay, so I need more glue down there, but I'm not going to worry about that yet. Oh, that's too dark. I don't want to use that. I'm purposely avoiding anything that is too dark or too... See, that piece is too small. I don't like it. I don't want it that much smaller than the other ones. Okay, I want them fairly big on this particular thing. On the next one will be different. But see, so we're going to put that in. It looks like I need to put more glue down there. So here, I'll put this down over here, and then I can put some glue to kind of get that. Did it get all the way to the end? There we go. Okay, so now let me get a little bit more glue. This really wants to stick, I can tell. So I'm going to take this and get it underneath the spots I didn't get before. Okay, and get it all the way to the end. Go all the way down here. And like I said, I like it. I'm scraping it to where it's not super thick, but I don't want to water it down because if I do, it's not going to work on this slick paper very well. I don't think. I mean, the fact that it's a good paste like this is why it's working on this paper. So if you have paper like this is perfect. And this is, I think it was about $13, which sounds kind of steep, but it has lasted me a long time. And I'm telling you, I use it for collage all the time because I love it. It does dry shiny, which for me doesn't matter because most of the time on my collage what I do is I'm gessoing over it or I'm doing other things on top of it, so that doesn't matter. But if you don't want that, then that's probably not what you want. So I'm just continuing on, and I'm doing, like, I'll probably put that right there. Let me cut some of that off. And it's, you know, hanging off the edges because that's the only way you're going to be sure that you... I think I'm going to do this like that. I think that'll work better and go further down. There we go. So anyway, I don't really have any real preference as to how... Let me see, I had another page under here that I wanted to use. Here we go. I've got a huge mess over here, guys, but that's kind of the only way I know how to do this, is that to make a mess. So let's put that, I don't want that on the edge. Well, I guess I could put that there and it wouldn't matter, would it? Okay. And then, where did that other one go? I saw one that I wanted to use. Let me see. Here we go. So, and as you can see, there's different fonts in here. A little bit different variation in color, but not a ton. You know, I'm trying to keep it fairly neutral. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do up here is add a couple more pieces because it looks a little bit too big. And see, that's what you can do, is you go back in and look and go, oh, gee, I could add this or that. And let's see, I'm going to do that. Put that right here. Okay. And I will do that and go in and make sure that there's any pieces I have that are, let's see, what would look good in there. How about, no, I don't want that one. Let's do another piece of that. Okay, that's too small. I need a bigger piece. And don't worry if you know, have pieces that you don't use, because trust me, at some point you will use them. Okay? So all I want is kind of similar sized pieces. They don't have to be perfectly the same size, but I'm looking for kind of a neutral base that I can use for things later. I don't want a lot of color in it. I'm not really necessarily looking you know, the big thing I'm looking for is I'm looking for just different fonts and things like that, and I don't care that they're upside down. Now I'm going to take some of this paste and I'm kind of go over it like this and put some on top, and I'm not going to cover it completely. Oh, I forgot. I do go over it with this if there's any pieces sticking out, but this is kind of doing the same thing. So I'm not worried about it. I've got a little gap right there. I'm going to take a little piece and put that, so make sure that I have that down. So anyway, I put a little of this glue. I'm going to fill in any of the gaps that I have. Like I have one right here. Put a tiny, I don't want to put a small piece in there because I really want it to kind of all be similar. I don't want it to look different than the rest of it. So okay, so anyway, let me put the rest of this on here like that. I'm just globbing it on, making sure I get some everywhere, getting the pieces to stay down, and just kind of smushing it around. Okay, there's a little piece down there. I don't want to, oh, it's on both those pieces, huh? So I guess I'll put this over here, and then I'll put another piece up here, and that should take care of it, right? Okay. So now that I've done that, I'm going to take a wet paintbrush, and I have one sitting right here, and I am just going to go over this because I've got globs of this glue all over. And if you can see, I'm pushing this Yes glue around, and it's watering it down a little bit. It's sitting on top, so all I'm doing is, and what that does also is it'll get underneath any of those pieces that you haven't stuck down. Okay, and you'll just do that all over, and it's taking that glue and it's just kind of moving it around, and it's going to get it all nice and stuck down. Okay, so that's kind of why I like this. It works kind of as a sealer. It's a great paste to get your decoupage down, and it really does a great job, but yet it's not overly watery. And I don't know if you can see that, but see, it stays down. It stays stuck down pretty good. So and then I'll just let that dry. If there's any pieces when it's dry on the ends or something that are you know, sticking up, then I'll go back in with like a glue stick or even the glue, and just kind of, but when you take your paintbrush, after you smooth it down with a credit card or whatever, but if you take your paintbrush and it's wet and you go over this after you've globbed some glue on top, it will basically get all this stuff to stay down. Okay, and so this, I let this stuff dry overnight. Whenever I do these, I just let them dry overnight, and that's usually perfect. It's perfectly dry the next day. You can use it for wherever you're going to use it for. So that is our neutral base that we're going to use, and we'll do something with that more, but that's kind of how I start it. Okay, and then another thing that I do is I'll take, here's another one. Okay, now this one is going to be a little different. This one I am going to make it neutral, but a lot more varied, because I'm going to have a different technique when I'm done with it. We're going to do something different with it. And this is where all of your, not really small pieces, but smaller pieces you can use. But we're still going to start out the same way. Going to take my Yes glue, and I'm going to go, and I do about half because I can work pretty fast. You need to do it to whatever pace you're doing it. You know, if you have to do just a quarter of it, then do a quarter of it. And, you know, I mean, I usually can do about a half at a time, or maybe a little less before it starts to get dry. And it doesn't dry really fast like a glue stick does. So it's not the same, but it's still easier to work with if it's wet. Okay. So on this one, I am going to do basically what I did before, except I'm going to go a little bit smaller pieces, and I am going to go purposely trying to vary the color a lot more. And I'm going to use different things like music page, just different things, just because, and I'm going to go out of my way to make sure there's a lot of contrast, and my pieces are going to be a lot smaller than what I did on the other one. Okay, and if I tear two pieces from one page that I think I wanted to use, and I just stick it somewhere else, and then I'll just take here I've got some music page. So on this, you know, I don't like the what do you call it, the straight edges, and if I do a straight edge, and I usually go back in and I change it. And so like here I have darker pieces, lighter pieces, and I'm going to go ahead and do that and make sure that I have glue down there. But you know, like I said, you can always come back in and fix it. So my pieces are just going to be smaller, that's all. And I'll take it and work my way up with all different size pieces. Like here, like I said, I always make sure I kind of do enough hanging off the bottom or the sides, because it just has a more natural, organic look to me that way. And if you have different kinds of music paper and stuff, you can put different one. I need some dictionary page. This piece is probably too small, but I'm going to still put it on there. Let's see, I know I have dictionary in here. Let me see where that would be. It's probably in the bottom somewhere. Yep, here we go. So you want to just, on this one you can tell I'm putting a lot more varied pieces in there. They don't have to be super small. You just don't want them too big, because we're going to have a different effect on this. Okay, let me put some more dictionary page over here. Maybe I'll put that right here. Okay. Put some of this in there. I don't want that right there. So this one's a little bit more involved because you're putting in a little bit smaller pieces and you're trying to maybe vary it, the color a little bit more. Like I've got some really, really old book page here, and I want to definitely get that in there. And if you can see, the color on that is very different than the other things that I have on there, but I want that on this one. Okay, I want it to be more varied. And I wouldn't want to put that right next to the other piece, because actually I think I'm going to do, you know, I have several dictionaries, so I don't know why I just got this one out. But anyway, this is very brittle, so it's kind of, I don't know how I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that one like that, I think. Oh wait, that's right next to the other one, so I don't want to do that. I'm going to go like that. All right, and it's okay if it's not all down, because you can go back in later and do it. But this one, I'm just trying to just get a little bit more variance in color and that kind of thing. And then I've got this right here. It's a really old book. Put that in here, over here. Oh, get that corner off of there. And then maybe, let's see, a little bit more of this. This is why you kind of, on this especially, have to have a little pile of, and if you don't have all this, you know, different fonts and, you know, different things, that's okay too, because it'll turn out good either way. If you have it though, use it. And if you start junk journaling, you'll have it in no time, I promise, because that's just part of it. Need more glue. I don't have any more. Oh gosh, it's amazing how easy this jar starts to get stuck I had to have my husband help me, and it took one time quite a bit to get it off. So probably be good if I cleaned around the edges before I did this. I'm using my brush here, but that's okay. You can use either one. It's not going to matter. So I'm just going ahead and I'm doing it piece by piece now. You can do it that way, or you can do it, you know, either way you do it. You can, so I'm going to put a little lighter colors in here too. Maybe put that up there. Let's see. And I'm working fairly fast, and I'm not really paying attention to what I'm doing. I'm just honestly slapping some stuff down, and it will work that way. Let me put this here like that. I think that'll work. Okay, maybe a little bit more down there. Okay, so let me turn this around a little bit. So you can see that I'm using smaller pieces, not super small, because that doesn't look good, but you want them, this is going to be smaller pieces because we're going to use it differently, and it's going to have a different effect than the other one. Let's see, I think I'm going to put that there, and it's probably too big, so I'll go like that, and then maybe put this over here. Right, there we go. My big thing when I do this is I'm trying to be able to see the different patterns and let them be part of whatever it is I'm making. Whereas on the other one, it's really just a background. So, so this is, it's not front and center, but it's not hiding as much as the other one is. You'll see it more, and then you can, I don't think I want to put that there. Let's see. Take a little piece over here. And a lot of times, guys, you think I'm tearing it purposely a certain way, and I'm not. I'm just shoving it wherever it'll fit. And then my only thing, like I said, I'm paying attention to is I'm trying to vary. See, part of the paper broke off there. I'm just trying to vary the fonts and things like that. So, oh, here's one. Do I want that one? Yeah, I do. Let me put that right here. And I really don't care too much if it's, you know, if it's not, one piece broke. Some of these pieces are very old and very brittle. So, really the only thing you can use them for is this, because you can't really put them in anything else because they won't, you can't use them for like, the back of a tag or something unless you reinforce it, because they're very old and brittle. But you do not have to have old book pages to do this at all. You do not, because it really works just as well. But you know, you're just, the biggest thing is varying in font and things, and if you start doing junk journaling and start tearing apart old books, you will have that irregardless. So okay, what do I want to put here? I can put some dictionary over there. I think we need some dictionary. Got too much of that, I think. Gonna put that right there. Oh, that's got dictionary over there, so I think I'm gonna put that. Don't mind me, I'm just talking to myself. I don't necessarily have a plan, as you can tell. Okay, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna put, is that gonna cover? Yeah, that will. I don't really worry too much. Oh, that probably is not gonna cover that, so I'm gonna have to put that there. Okay, anyway, I'm going to go back over this later, so I'm not really that worried. Let's see, what don't I have down here? I need a little bit more. Where did that lot go? Here we go. Putting that right there. I don't have that much of the dark stuff, so I need to put a little bit more of that in there. Oh, that's not big enough. Let me get another one here. I've made such a mess here, I can't find my stuff that I need. Here we go. Okay, so that's it for this one, and all I'm going to do is the exact same thing. I'm going to go ahead and put more of this glue down. I think I'll start down here. Obviously, that would be easier because I can reach it easier and then turn it around. I'm globbing it on top and then spreading it out, and you can do that with the credit card or anything you want. I'm just going to do that, and this is going to help me get all of the other pieces down. Excuse me, guys. My allergies have just been terrible lately. Let me get a drink of water. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to go back and, oh, I used the wrong brush. Where'd my other brush go? I had it a minute ago. Here we go. That's okay. This brush won't matter. It just had some other glue on it. Okay. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to kind of go across it and go like that. And I know I have little gaps in there, but you're going to see in a minute what we do with those. Okay, so I'm just taking it, and this just waters the glue down a little, and it helps you get underneath those little spots that you missed. Okay, so we're going to do that and go all the way across as far as we've gotten done so far. Okay, and then I'm going to turn this around, and I'm going to do what I didn't do yet. Let me get that off of the bottom so it doesn't stick on there. And I'm just going to take a little of the glue and go down here where we had not gone and put some glue down. Okay. And that is going to just allow us to get all the spots that we didn't get. And then get some water on our brush and go down and kind of just smooth it around. Get it all in there. And go up. If there's pieces you missed, you can lift them up if you want to. A lot of times I like to use a brush when I do this part because it kind of squishes it in there. It gets it all underneath and all those little pieces. See, like that piece was sticking up. Well, now it's not. And I just do that. I go back and forth all over it. And it's going to basically get it all to lay flat. Okay. Now I have some tissue paper, and you don't have to do this. I just happen to have this, and it has words on it. And what I'll do is I'll take this, and I will take it and put it anywhere I see. If there's a gap, like I see one here, and maybe if I see like there's like, you know, too big of a piece or something like that. Like here I see another gap, so I'm going to put one in there. Okay. And I just go around and I see another gap over there. And I see one over. I don't want it too small of a piece. It's starting to stick to my fingers now. So I just put these wherever I see. Like there's one right there. And it adds interest, but it also, you know, helps you fix your little boo-boos. And if you've like put like too much of one kind, or you haven't varied it enough, that's when this works well, because it kind of breaks it up a little bit and it adds more interest. So you can kind of fix your little mistakes that way. And also, honestly, you won't be able to tell later anyway. Okay, so I've done that. Now what I'm going to do is just wet my brush a little. We still have glue on there. So what that's going to do, it'll easily lay down, okay? Just make sure your brush is wet. You've already got tons of glue sitting on top, so it's not going to be an issue to stick this down, okay? And I do that, and, you know, and you don't have to have tissue paper to do that. You could do that with any of the other papers. It's just, it just kind of has a neat effect. And I think I got this at Walmart ages ago. So, okay, so that one is done for now. Okay, so that's what we're going to do with that. All right, and again, I would take that, and you see how it's on there nice and flat. And it will be really, the effect we do to this, it'll make it really neat, and you can use it for tags or ephemera or whatever. But anyway, that will take, I let it sit out overnight just to dry. Don't do anything else to it. I don't usually use my heat gun or anything like that, just because. And I'm going to take this paper and I'm going to move it so it's out of the way. I have a big thing right here where I keep all my scraps out. Get all that out of there. Usually don't keep my really tiny ones, because I used to. I don't. I used to have like a plastic baggie where I kept them, and you're going to find out real quick that you don't need to keep all those scraps. But at first I did, and then it got to be overwhelming. So, all right. So anyway, I'm going to clean this off real quick to do the next part, and put that in there. Put that in there. Okay. Put that in there. And I'm going to just kind of clean off my mat a minute, if you guys don't mind, because it is very sticky. And you can see why I bought that Yes glue, so that I could use it for instead of glue stick, and it does. That's not a substitute for glue stick. It works really well for collage. It works really well for collage. And it's supposed to be for like bookbinding and, I don't know, and paper crafts, but I think it's rather messy, so I don't think I would use it. I mean, I just wouldn't use it for a lot of things that I would want control over, you know, like, it's messy, but it works well for this stuff. So let me get another wipe to wipe my hands. It's not completely clean, but it'll work, I think. It'll work. I use my alcohol that I get from the dollar store, and it really cuts through that glue pretty quick. So let me... Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do is, I've got this piece that's, I don't know what it's supposed to be, honestly, but it's ugly, and I don't know that I would use it for anything. So what I'm going to do with this is, I'm just going to take my gesso, and I don't know whether paint would work on this because it is so slippery, and I didn't sand this or do anything. So if you sanded it, maybe it would work. I don't know. But a lot of your paper is not going to be glossy like that, so I don't think that would be an issue. You could easily, I'm sure, you know, paint it with regular paint if you wanted to, but I'm using gesso because I know it'll work with this. And I have kind of a stiff brush. This is kind of my gesso brush, and I use that, and what I'm going to do is, I'm basically just going to put it on, just kind of glob it on, really. with my gesso. Just going to put it all over as big globs of it and kind of spread it around. Just kind of go all over with it. Just so I get enough on there. I'm just trying to get it on there. Then I'm going to take a brayer and I'm going to go over this. And the reason you're using a brayer instead of a brush is what you're doing is you're trying to spread this around. And you have to work fast with gesso because it does dry pretty quick. And what you're trying to do is you are trying to spread this around, and it will kind of still show the background of your paper. So I'm going to do that, and I have like a little scratch or indentation in my brayer, so it's leaving those marks, which I don't really care, but I'm going to go over it with my other brayer. Let's see if I can get all of that off of there to kind of smooth it out a little bit and see. Plus it gives it a kind of a different texture too. And anyway, so I'm going to do that, and I don't care if it has little marks and stuff on it because it'll just add to it later. And then I just let it dry, and this dries fairly quick. So we'll just let that dry, and it will end up turning out really cool when we do the next part. Let me take that out, put my brush in here, and clean this up. There's always something to clean up, right? So anyway, that is a way to kind of use your old scrapbook paper, use your kind of your papers that you're going to end up pulling out of books. And like I said, it does not have to be old papers or anything, just whatever you have. And I've done collage before, and I've done it with bright colors, and then we do stuff, but this is kind of a different thing because on this what we do is it's going to have a completely different effect than what we would normally do. So okay, so anyway, wipe my hands off again because they have gotten so sticky. There we go. Alright guys, so now what I'm going to do is we are going to use, I had done some of these before exactly the same way, and I'm just going to kind of show you. Okay, so this is the first one that we did, that we just did kind of the plain papers. Okay, so what I do with that is I just take my this is my alcohol ink, okay, and this is what I do is I take my alcohol ink and I mix it with alcohol, and I just take it and I just spray it all over this. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of lightly kind of spray it just to give it a little bit of character. And then I'm just going to take it and I'm going to kind of wipe it around a little bit, and it will dry. Those spots will dry. They're just getting wet right now, and that's just going to give it like spots all over it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my vintage photo, and I use this brush. I don't use my inker because this kind of goes around more. And I will just take that and I will lightly, I don't know, I think that made it too tacky. Let me let it blow dry it a little bit so I can do that. The alcohol kind of wet the glue a little bit too much. But I might go ahead and come back to this and let it dry it it'll dry really quick because it's alcohol ink, but you don't have to do the alcohol ink, but what that does is it puts like little blotches and dots on it, and if you want that effect, that's what it'll do. I'm going to let that, I think I'm going to just let that dry on the side, and we'll come back to this one, okay? This one what I'm going to do is something completely different, but we're going to take this one, and I am going to take my gesso and my gesso brush, and I am going to take that, and I'm going to go ahead and just do what I do on other collages. And the reason being is I want this to be a little bit more neutral than it is, okay? And you're thinking, oh, she's ruining it. Why is she putting all that on there? Well, it will look really cool when we get done, I promise. So I put it on, and now one thing about this is if you put too much, you have to take it off fairly quickly, because it will definitely dry very quickly. So anyway, I do this, and I just kind of go over it, and it'll when it dries, it's kind of almost, I wouldn't say it's translucent, but it kind of fades to the background and you can't see it that much. And I'm trying to get to where this stuff is just the different variations are not as noticeable. So, because when you do a tag, what's going to happen is you want this to kind of be just a background. You don't want it to be, you know, the whole, you want people really to notice it that much. You want the difference to be there, but you don't want them to necessarily notice it. So we're just going to do that. And this stuff dries quickly, so if you do decide you put too much down, then you kind of want to get it off and go back in. And what'll happen is it'll settle in the cracks and stuff like that. And we'll do that and go all the way through it. Okay. And I know you're thinking, oh my gosh, wait, but wait, it'll look good. And so all right, we're going to do that. And I've got it on there. Some places are thicker than others, but that's okay. That's all right. And I'm going to let that dry. See if this is dried good enough. A couple more minutes. I'm going to go ahead and maybe help it dry a little bit, because it doesn't take much. Maybe move it. So I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and then we'll come back to it. Just like this one. Put that aside. So now that we've got this one over here, make sure it's dry. And so you can see our little blotches on there that we've gotten. I probably would want more than that, but you know, you want to make sure it's kind of dry, because if it's too tacky, it's not going to glide, and you want it to glide over. So now you can leave this just like that, because this would work. You don't have to do much more to it. The alcohol ink that we spray on here is gonna you know, darken some spots out and whatever, and it depends on how dark you want it. So you can just take this and just lightly go over it, and what that'll do is it'll just take some of the edges. In fact, probably the one I would use, where's my other brush? Where did it go? Oh no. Do not tell me my other brush is not here. Oh, there it is. Okay. This brush goes on even lighter, and that might work better, because but what that'll do is that'll just darken spots up. It'll go into the cracks, and you can just kind of do that. If you want it even darker, you can kind of go with that. But what this will do is it'll just kind of give it a little age to it. And it like I said, it really just depends on what look you want. But I think most of the time we're trying to age things. So anyway, just go over that like that. And this is a very, very neutral kind of base for a card or something, and it works really well. I mean, you could use it for a cover if you wanted to. So, you know, that's probably all I would do, except, where's my scissors? Now let me put the cover on that. What I would do with this is just cut it off. And of course, I cut whatever it is into my tags that I'm going to use. Okay, and then I ink around them. I don't, you know, to me there's no point. And, you know, I cut out the shape that I want, and then I ink around it. Or sometimes I wait because I may make it a certain size and then have to adjust it. And I usually wind up sewing these because I think they always look really cool when they're sewn. And like this, I'd probably use black thread. So, and of course, I'm not cutting this perfectly straight, but that's okay. You know, that's why it didn't really matter on the edges, because what you're doing is you're just... There we go. So that is just going to be just a base to make cards out of, and then like if you were inking the edges, it looked pretty good. You might want to put, I think that's probably enough. There might be some spots that I missed or whatever, but as you make your card or whatever, you could go back in and adjust that. Now here's the one that we put the gesso on. I'm going to go ahead and cut the sides on that while I'm waiting for this to completely dry. And we'll do that. And this is going to have a similar effect, except the gesso tones down all the different the tones that we have in here, which kind of seems a little weird to me, but it works. Because, you know, I guess we could have just done it the same as the other one, but it just has a little bit different effect. And I've used this kind of effect a lot just because it just, I don't know, it works. It just seems like with anything. And then like if you have bright colors, the gesso tones it down. You know, it really works well. Now I think this smeared a little bit because it wasn't 100% dry, but anyway, you can take that, and if you want to, okay, if it's rough, you can take it and you can just sand it down a little bit, you know, if you want to get some of the rough edges off or whatever. I don't really worry about that. And here you've got a little piece showing, but that's okay, because when you make your tag or whatever, you can always go back and fix it, or you can just take a piece like this. You can just go something like this and just take like a little glue stick and go like that. And ooh, where did it go? It stuck to my hand. So, and just go like that, and then you're good. You're fine. So, and you'll never, once you make your tag and do whatever it is what you want with it, you can always go back and do whatever. So then I just do the same thing with this, only I take this and I just go all the way around, and I probably ink this more. And what that does to the gesso is the gesso grabs the ink, and it just completely changes it to where it looks like it's kind of like, I don't know. It just has just a really cool effect. Because I never really like this until I put ink on it after. And then after I do that, I mean, look at the difference. See, isn't that cool? That's just so cool, right? And this, you know, not so much, okay? But this is neat. So it mutes down the differences, and the gesso grabs the ink. Now I don't know if paint will do it as well. I've never tried it with that, so, but, and you know, it was a little tacky when I did this, and so it kind of gummed it up a little bit. But see, I don't worry about that, because to me that's just adding more texture. And so what you're doing with the gesso and all the different layers is you're just adding texture. So if it gets a little gumpy or whatever, that's a good thing, because in my eyes you're just adding another layer of texture. So that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to make it look like it's I don't know, I don't really know how to explain it, but at least this is my vision anyway. Now to other people, they may not want to do all that, and they may not get why you're doing it. Now if you wanted to add color to this, you could certainly do that. You know, I've done other videos where we've done it with very bright, colorful patterns, but that's not the effect I was going for here. So I wanted a very neutral kind of base so that I could put colorful things on top of it. Okay, or not. Maybe you're doing a very monotone journal and you just want, you know, something, you know, that doesn't have a lot of color in it. So this is the perfect way to do it. And adding the gesso on there, what it does is it allows you to use this, you know, and it's not just in your face, you know, different. I mean, you can barely see the different patterns now, and they're in the background. And I'm just taking my brush. I could have used my other brush probably. Anyway, this is my dollar store brush, and I'm putting a lot on because I think that's what I like. You may not like that much, so. And what happens is parts of the gesso and thing, and the cracks will still be there, and then you may, you know, I might go over that a little bit, but that's what kind of gives it all the layers. So that's what that looks like, and that's going to be really cool. And you know, you can just see cutting that up in a tag and using that, and you'll see me use this because this is something that I think you can, you know, do a lot of things with. This would make a cool cover too, I think. Okay, so then the last one, this is the one that we gessoed, and that's all we did to it. Okay, so on this, let me take, this is my alcohol, this is what's it called? It is Latte Ranger alcohol ink, and then I mix it with just alcohol. So I put probably about 20 drops of alcohol ink, and I mix it, and I use this a lot. So I'm going to take this and do kind of what I did to that other one, but I'm going to just kind of spray it in different spots. I don't want it to be even. I want some drops. I probably should just do this. Put some drops here and there. And because it's alcohol ink, it will definitely stain it. So I'm going to do that and just kind of get some different looks here and there. And it should dry fairly quickly. I think what it did before is it kind of re-wet the glue over there, but I think this should dry quick. And I'm going to do that, and I'm just doing that all over. So it's going to kind of bunch up because it's alcohol ink, and it's going to give it kind of a cool effect. Let me see if that's dry. I think it's dry. Okay, let me see. I'm going to go ahead, and I think what I'm going to do on that is I'm going to see if I can dry it so you can see without messing it up too bad. And I want it kind of blotchy. I don't want it to be all even or anything like that. But I do want it to show all the different texture. And the little dots that you're seeing behind me here is the pattern in the paper. So whenever you do this, you have to, whatever the pattern is in the background, you would want that to be part of your tag. You know, you have to think how's it going to look with gesso over it. So, because the gesso is kind of translucent. Just like in that first tag, it didn't cover it. It just kind of, when it dries, it's a little bit translucent. So, you're going to see what's ever behind it. So, okay, it's starting to dry now. And what I would do with that then is I would just take this and probably just go over it with a, you know, whatever different color you want for your tag, if you want to add more to it or not. But this makes kind of a cool base. Now this is very monotone too, and I purposely did that because that's kind of how I want these tags. But I mean, you could certainly do this on a bright color and it would turn out really cool. And you know, so I am going to take, let's see here, I have some other colors and I'm going to see what happens if I just go just a little bit here and there with that. You know, I think I'm going to use a brush for that. I think it might look better. So I'm just going to kind of add some other, this is, what color is that? Let's see, this one is Rusty Hinge, and I'm going to take just a little Rusty Hinge because it's a little bit lighter, kind of orangey brown color, and I'm just going to put some of that in there. And I just want this to be monotone but yet have some depth to it, so I don't want it to be all one color. That's what I'm getting at here. So I'm just putting this in here in different spots. And you know, you can make it however you need it for your journal. I mean, I'm wanting to just have a little bit of depth and color, and I just want it to look like kind of an old, I don't know, not really leather, but just something with texture. I don't know what I'm really going for, but so my goal is to just kind of get some of this color all over. I already got the alcohol ink. You could not use alcohol ink. I mean, you can use shoe polish if you want to. It'll still have a similar effect. But okay, so then I put that on. I think I have enough of that. And now I'm going to take another color that's called Gathered Twigs. And I'm just, maybe I'll use a different brush for that. And I'm going to take that, and I'm going to take a little, and this is a darker color, and I'm just going to go in spots with that, just so, like I said, I'm just trying to add depth to this so it's not all one color. And so, and as you can see, we went over it with the white, and you can't see any white anymore. It's kind of a brownish yellow color, which would make a really good base for a lot of cool looking cards. You'll see what I have in mind for them, but like I said, you know, if you had like a bright orange or a bright green or a bright yellow or some other pattern paper, it would have a totally different effect. But this is kind of what I'm just giving you an idea of what you could do. So I'm putting that on there, and then of course any tag that you make, you would ink it to what you like. Okay, now I haven't put any vintage photo on that, so I think I'm going to do that. Let's see, I should have another brush in there, maybe. Yeah, I do. So I'm going to take my vintage photo, and I'm going to add some of that, just to kind of, like I said, give it more depth. So it has like just a bunch of different, just different colors to it, just different textured, you know, a lot of movement. And I'm not covering the whole thing. I'm just kind of going in spots just so it kind of helps blend the other colors so it doesn't look so like that. Here we go. So I'm just kind of doing that in motion and just kind of getting it wherever I can get it, and just maybe putting some more on here and there. So anyway, this is just going to give us a whole nother look that we can use for a base. And if you remember how ugly that it was, this is what it started out as, and then this is what it's like now. Okay, so I don't even know what I would call that, but it's a really cool look. Okay, so you just need to look at your papers in a way that maybe if you can envision them, you know, with a little extra TLC, what you can do with them. And I could certainly see that as a tag. Again, you could use that. That'd be kind of a cool cover too. But anyway, guys, that is what we've done today. This is our collage that we've done. That is just for our tags that were very varied in color, but it's still kind of monotone. And then we have this one that we did that is just basically all similar tones, but we just put a little bit of inking on it when we were done, and that's it. And then this one. So that's it, guys. That's all we did today, and I hope that helped. And you'll see how I make tags and things out of that later. But I think you could do a lot of cool things with that. Anyway, thank you guys, and I guess we'll see you again. And also, don't forget about Giveaway Fridays. Look at the other ones to see the rules. We'll see you again. Bye.